Few images we have seen since the midair collision have brought home the enormity of the loss as this. 14-year-old Everly Livingston and her 11-year-old sister, Lydia, of Ashburn, Virginia. Their mom texted the photo to a friend right before the plane took off. The faces of innocence.
The sisters and their parents were among the 67 people killed when the plane collided with an Army helicopter near Washington. Kris Van Cleave has the latest on the investigation.
Crews began lifting pieces of the American Airlines regional jet that crashed into the Potomac River after Wednesday's mid-air collision. Among them, the midsection of the plane's mangled and upside-down fuselage, one of the plane's engines, and a wing, as efforts continue to recover all 67 crash victims.
We have positively identified 55 sets of remains. During recovery and salvage operations today, additional human remains were located.
NTSB investigators have accessed the plane's cockpit data recorder, which shows the airliner was flying at about 325 feet around the time of the collision. Deputy Director of Army Aviation, Colonel Mark Ott.
Is there any reason why Army helicopters would be flying above that 200-foot line as it appears in this case?
It's important for us to not speculate, because there are all kinds of reasons that you could deviate from an altitude. You know, something as simple as a flock of birds is in front of you, or you may deviate if you see something that's an obstacle or other threat to your flight.
The black box data also indicates the plane pitched up immediately before impact, perhaps a last-second attempt by the pilots to climb. Airline Captain Laura Einsettler.
What's going on in the cockpit 325 feet up with the runway in sight?
The pilots of the regional jet are going to be fully focused on landing the jet. They're manually flying at that point, focused on the runway, focused on their altitude, their airspeed, their spatial orientation, their descent rate.
The second plane crash Friday in Philadelphia capped the deadliest week for American aviation in more than 2 decades and has rattled the flying public.
What are you telling passengers right now?
We put our lives on the line every day to keep everyone absolutely as safe as we possibly can. So we always want to reassure the passengers and the traveling public that our safety is our absolute #1 priority.
And Kris Van Cleave joins us now. So, Kris, what are pilots telling you about the fact that these two aircraft were so close in the first place, and everybody's wondering how safe are the skies?
Well, yeah, so fundamentally, two aircraft, even if that helicopter had been at 200 feet, they were too close together. You want at least 1,000 feet of separation there. So what led up to the circumstances? What is the chain of events that put those two aircraft so close together? It won't just be that the helicopter was flying at 325 feet. There will be other factors that led us down the road to disaster here. How safe is the aviation system? It's as safe as it was before this crash. There are layers of safety built in that are still in effect today, the same way they were 2 weeks ago.
Kris Van Cleave in Washington.